you doing? I'm Tony Harris. I'm from Booz Allen Hamilton. Murugiah Souppaya is sitting in the audience here. We created a Win2K document for securing Windows 2000 Professional. What we tried to do with this document is create something that everybody can use. We found that the experienced administrators had no problems with the NSA guidelines for security, but the entry-level administrators and some experienced users didn't want to use the NSA document because they felt it was too complicated. So what we've done is take NSA's guidelines to create a document that experienced users, by experience I mean anybody that can go in and you tell a user, I need you to run ipconfig to tell me what your network settings are, and that user doesn't give you a blank stare, that person should be able to run this document and secure their system. The outline of our briefing, we go through our introduction about who NIST is, why we did the document. I went into most of that then. General hardening principles that we use throughout the document. Securing Windows 2000 Professional, we'll go into a brief overview of what's in the document about securing Windows 2000. Some of the popular applications that we included in the document. The NIST template itself and what changes are in our template from the Windows, or from the NSA template, sorry, and our contact info. NIST, here's the overview of National Institute Standards and Technology. I've been working for NIST for the past 4 or 5 months helping them out with this document. And in a previous life, I was a calibration technician, so I have a deep respect for NIST laboratories and practice. Their mandate for computer security is to develop standards and guidelines for the federal government and contribute to improving the security of commercial IT products. So right here, we're targeting the federal government as well as commercial IT. Some of the recent documents NIST has produced, I believe most of these are out. Is that right, Murugiah? Some are in draft right now. Our document's out in public draft right now, so we're looking for as much input as we can get to make this document good for everyone. Why do we do it? We recognize the need to consolidate best practices from various sites and places. Microsoft, SANS, NSA, and various security sites we found out on the internet. We went and looked at all of these sites and did research and tried to consolidate this into the document. We found very little federal guidance for securing these popular applications. And the guide's designed for, of course, educated users and administrators. Goals of the document, we built on existing resources, and we want a complete unified document. The structure and flow. We do a high-level overview of Windows 2000 built-in features. These features, we basically talk about IPsec, Kerberos, what a domain is, what a standalone workstation is. It just basically very high level so an early user can come into this and understand something about Windows 2000. We go into installation recommendations from the beginning to end, from formatting your hard drive to patching your system. Securing the OS, we talk about how to apply the template, what you need to do to apply it. Application security, the security for each of the applications that we've tested, some basic settings that every user should be able to put into their applications to secure them. We give a description of every key that we modified and various references for further research. So one appendix is fully devoted to security references, so they can take the PDF file, double-click on it, and find out more information if they need it. General principles that we use for creating the document. Perform a clean install. We want to start with a clean slate. Install the OS updates and patches for the system. Remove and disable any unnecessary services. You don't want to run things that you don't need. It's general guidelines. Restrict access to the OS, binaries, and system. These are some of the things that we found were lacking in a lot of security guides, restricting access to these ping.exe, command.exe, so on and so forth for users. Least privilege administrator and user role. We want administrators to do administrative functions on their systems and users to use the system. So what we're finding in commercial IT arenas, people that control their workstations, they work under that administrator environment at all times. So we're trying to stress that you need to do your day-to-day work as a user. We want to protect the user data through discretionary access controls, so we show users how to set the ACLs on their system, how to secure their files, and we want to enable auditing on those critical files. The general principles for applications. You want to protect against active content, you need to install virus scanners. They only work with signatures, of course, so there are some weaknesses in virus scanners. They aren't the do-all, end-all, but you need to keep them updated and enable email attachment scanning. We want to keep our applications fully up to date. A lot of different vulnerabilities come out for each application, so we want to make sure that they stay updated. Removing VBS and VBE file type associations from the Windows 2000 system. That at least gives you some protection when a VBS file runs that it doesn't know what to do with it. So if you don't require those on a regular basis, remove them from file type association. Set your Outlook attachment security to high. We'll talk about that later. Macro security needs to be set to high, and we're also going to that. Need to enable digital signatures for safe macros. Once you enable digital signatures, safe macros will run on your system when the attachment's high. I'll go into that a little bit later. Set your internet zone security to high and utilize a trusted site zone. All right. We want to perform the installation on a secure network segment or off the network entirely. Too many people start their installations on the internet and get hacked before they're done. So you don't want to put an insecure system out on the net until you do some patching or securing of that system. Partition your hard drive, of course, using NTFS. There is no security whatsoever in FAT. Install the OS with minimum required services. So only put the services on there that you need on your system. And install TCP/IP networking client for Microsoft Networks only. This just means don't install file sharing unless you're going to share your files. Don't install NetWare unless you're logging into a NetWare network. It goes back to the basic principle of don't install things you don't need on your system. Application installation. We talk about installing antivirus system, email client, network browsers, Microsoft Office suite, and to run and test each application. The importance of running and testing. When you install these applications on your system, before you secure them, you want to make sure that they're running as a default. A lot of people are installing applications, securing the systems. It's not working. You don't know where the problem's at. Make sure you test them before you secure them. You want to update your system. You need to apply the latest service pack available. Right now, it's Service Pack 2. And I believe just recently, Microsoft's come out with a hotfix rollup package for every hotfix available after Service Pack 2. So that's excellent. You just load your hotfix rollup and you've got every hotfix and patch available for your system. You can download and install the required hotfixes from the site listed, Microsoft site. You can use Windows Update to download and install these patches, but it comes back to putting your system on the internet. You want to avoid that if possible until you've got some kind of patching on your system. Download and install, of course, all the other application and patches, and continuously scan your system to make sure that all the updates are there and patches are available. The Microsoft Hotfix service. The Hotfix and Security Bulletin service is something nice that Microsoft's given us. We can go out and tell them that we have the Windows 2000 professional product, that we have the latest Service Pack 2 on our system, and it lists every hotfix and bulletin that's come out for the system since our configuration. So you can go look out here to make sure you've got everything. Another tool is Hfnetchk. This tool can check the hotfix status of a single computer, an IP range, an entire domain. Single computer checking, you go out, you run Hfnetchk as a default, and it goes out and downloads a configuration file to your system and checks your system and tells you what hotfixes you're missing. If you don't want to connect your system to the internet, which is what we're saying, you can go out and download this configuration file to your system point Hfnetchk to it, and then check all your hotfix status. So you never have to go to the update site to check what hotfixes are running on your system. Qchain. When you do download all these hotfixes, you have to reboot after each and every one of the hotfix installations. Microsoft came up with a program called Qchain. This allows you to run hotfixes with the -Z option, which prevents the reboot from happening. Then run Qchain.exe after the hotfixes have been installed, perform your reboot, and they're all installed. So you can install multiple hotfixes at the same time. Hfnetchk.exe will allow you to verify that the hotfixes that you've just run are now loaded on your system. So you want to make sure that you have indeed installed these hotfixes within your system. These are all tools that Microsoft has actually relatively recently provided for us over-tasked administrators. Antivirus configuration, we're basically saying to keep your signatures up to date and turn it all on. Use everything that you've got in your antivirus. Enable your automatic protection. Make sure that you're checking everything that goes in and out of your system. Enable periodic scanning. Even with automatic protection, you still want to periodically scan every file on your system to make sure that you have no viruses. Enable heuristics if available. That gets painful to some people at times, but it can go out and determine that, okay, I don't have a signature for this, but this looks like virus-like behavior. And it just lets the user know that something is trying to do virus-like behavior on their system. And enable automatic update to keep your signatures up to date. The Outlook client. We want to disable auto opening of messages. It's nothing worse than just opening your Outlook client and your message opens automatically. You know that it's not somebody you know. You know it's the subject that, there was a virus out for that last week, and it opens on you automatically. So you want to be able to choose what you want to open, what you want to open within your email. Preview pane and auto preview that goes along with the auto opening. The preview pane, as soon as you highlight the message, of course, it pops right up in your preview pane. That means that the website that it's going to, it's already gone. It's run whatever's on that email. Set your attachment security to high. This helps. This is in-depth security. Now your attachment security is set to high. You get a warning message whenever something tries to run on your system. And there's a little caveat to that. Right now, if you fully patch Outlook, the attachment security to high button goes away. It's a problem that Microsoft's working on right now. I don't know if it'd be back in there or not. So if it's fully hotfixed, you may not find that setting. Set your security zone to restricted. Restricted security zones, the next slide actually, we'll talk about what security zones are. Setting the zone to restricted means that I don't trust Outlook. I don't trust anywhere Outlook goes. So you make sure that no active content runs wherever Outlook points me to. Set your macro security level to high. Setting macro security to high disables all macros silently. So the user never gets a message that this macro has actually tried to run on a system. It just will not allow it to run. If the macro is signed, the user will get a message asking that person if he wants to run the macro or not. If it's not signed, he gets nothing. So this allows you to use macros within your environment that are allowed for users as long as you digitally sign these macros. Eudora client. Ensure that all executable content and execution types are registered in the warn launch extensions list. Eudora.ini file contains this list of what it calls executable applications. You just want to make sure that every executable you can think of is within this ini file. You need to redirect Eudora data into users' application directory. And I don't know how many of you are using Eudora? Is anybody using it? It's not a lot, not very popular. But we've chosen Eudora to give us another email application. We want to redirect the Eudora data files in the user's application directory. This essentially allows the user data files to be protected. In the directory that the default install points you to, the user application files are open, or user data files are open to anyone to access. We want to ensure that executables and HTML content aren't allowed. That means that any executable that comes in as HTML will not run on the system. And don't use the Microsoft's viewer if you're using a Eudora. You don't want to, if you're using Eudora, it closes off some of the problems that you have with some Microsoft applications with macros. You don't want to open yourself back up again by using the viewer. Just use the installed Eudora viewer and enable executable warnings. Zone security. I'm sure most everybody has seen this, but local internet zone. Your content is located on your internal net. This is content that you kind of trust. So you want to set that setting to a medium level or as high as you can possibly set it to where everything on your intranet still runs. Trusted site zone. This zone we'll use later. The websites entered to this you believe are reputable. You believe these sites are okay for you to browse. And we've recommended to set this zone to medium. Internet zone, you don't trust any content here. We want to set this zone to high. We don't want to run any active content whatsoever within this zone. An internet zone is also your default. So any site that's not listed in any other zones falls into the internet zone and gets run or executed as necessary. Restricted site zone. This zone ends up being the same as the internet zone. We want the settings for restricted sites to be the same as the internet. So we're saying the entire internet is a restricted site zone. And local machine zone, these are the files on your local computer. You can change the zone settings on here to where ActiveX won't even run on your desktop. We're recommending there to keep your setting at a medium level. Internet configuration, set your internet zone to high and set the trusted site zone to medium. Now the deal with setting zones to medium, if you're putting in any type of site other than HTTPS, which has a certificate attached to it, you have to turn off the setting to allow other sites in. It's got a checkbox that says HTTPS only allowed in this zone. To access these other zones, you need to take that check off. The problem with this, the security problem, is that your DNS may get poisoned. If your DNS system is poisoned, when you think you're going to Microsoft.com, you may not be going to Microsoft.com unless there's a certificate attached. So there is some slight risk in putting all your trusted zones in that area. Set your internet security to maximum setting your environment can tolerate. Netscape config. Enable the minimum utilities required during the install. Netscape installs a lot, AOL, all kinds of different things on your system. Only enable what you need. Disable JavaScript if you don't require it. That's the only active content that Netscape uses on a regular basis. Disable that if you don't require it. Review your plugins, and to remove those, you have to remove the actual DLL files for the plugins themselves. And something else I want to show you. When we went through and did our settings and did our testing, we had to change some of the settings because Netscape wouldn't run. It wouldn't allow users to create new profiles. So we've added some settings to our template. And to bring up the template, this is what our high application setting does. It tells you that, hey, you're trying to run an executable here. It may be harmful. Please decide whether you want to do this or not. So in this setting, I kind of want to bring up that we've commented each one of the settings within the INF file. So if anybody wants to look in there, they know what type of settings we're changing within the INF. And the Netscape commutator for 7 permissions, we've changed those permissions to allow users to use the system. We found that with our settings, a regular user cannot use Netscape. So we've changed those settings to reflect it. Office configuration. We want to disable digital signatures for trusted macros, or enable digital signatures for trusted macros. Use those digital signatures, turn off macros to everybody else that doesn't have digital signatures. So as long as you set your macro security to high and you haven't signed any macros, per Microsoft, unless another vulnerability is found, they will not run on your system. Clear the trust all installed add-ins template. This basically says that you're setting high security to even the installed macros that came with Office. Unless you clear this, then the installed applications don't get blocked into the high macro security setting. And if required within your environment, all macros can be disabled. There's a group of registry settings that says no matter what, whether you're signed, whether you're not, do not run macros on my system. So if you never want to run a macro, you can set these registry settings, and they're in the document. The NIST template settings, we created it by combining recommendations from NSA, Microsoft, and security community at large. We've added several keys and modifications to services within the file. We tested all the settings using the applications that we talked about earlier. And very few modifications were actually made to NSA's document. We don't want to create this as a replacement for NSA. We want to create this document as something to go with the NSA guidelines, something to go with your SANS guidelines and whatever guidelines you're using. So the document is extremely close to NSA, and we'll talk about any changes that we've made. Services. We've disabled internet connection sharing, routing remote access, task scheduler, and telnet as a default. That's disabled in the template right now. All the other services, we've given guidance in one of our chapters as to guide them on how to disable, if they should disable it with their environment or not. Our password policy differences. These differences were actually policy settings that NIST felt would work in their environment and that we felt would work in ours. We felt that 42 days for changing the password within the NIST environment was too short. So we added the 90 days. And this is pretty much for cost and time consideration for sysadmins. Password age, minimum password age was 1. Same issue, they felt that that was acceptable to keep a user from going through their password history. We've set the password history setting to 24 passwords. That means, and that's the same as the NSA document. That means that a user can't reuse a password until they've gone through 23 more. So this one-day setting means that they have to wait a day before they can change their password again to keep a user from cycling through all their passwords. The minimum password length was 8. Another cost and time considerations. Users tend to forget their passwords quick if they're longer than 8 characters. The account lockout policy. This is another cost and time. 15 minutes is what we chose for account lockout, which is the same as the NSA document. Our threshold is 3. If you try to log in 3 times and you get it wrong on the 3rd time, you're locked out for 15 minutes. And it's reset after 15 minutes. So if you do one bad login and come back 15 minutes later, you're reset. We may actually change that. We'll see what the community says. Audit policy. This is all the changes that we made here are to reduce the log entries that you have to go through in your auditing. The directory service access, because we are concentrating a lot on the standalone environment, we decided not to audit that. Object access, we only want to see failures, and privilege use, we only want to see failure to those privileges. And user rights assignments, we left users and administrators to access the computer from the network. We didn't shut that off, even though we have shut off file sharing. This is a policy setting that you can set within your environment. If you're not going to use file sharing, you do need to disable that. Bypass traverse checking. Some of our security settings for the files within the system require that a user can bypass traverse checking. So we don't allow them into a directory above a setting, but they are allowed into some things below that directory. So we need to be able to make sure that the user can get through that directory to the directory that they actually require access to. Change system time. We only want the administrators to change the time. This is so a user can't go in, do something nasty with the time changed, and come back out and change the time back. Forcing shutdown from a remote location. This is another cost and time consideration. If you have these systems throughout your network, we're allowing administrators to come in and shut them down if necessary. There's one other setting I'll go over here. Something else we did do, and that's really hard to read. This is a document itself. Yeah. This is a document itself, and what we've done is disabled access to files. Ping, run as, telnet. Basically, a lot of the network access files are disabled for users. So we're telling users that, to run these files on your network, we'd like you to be in administrative mode to use these files. So if somebody breaks into the system, if they do break into the system with a user privilege, they won't have access to these other files to go in and scan your network. Security options. LAN-man and LAN-man authentication level. Right now we've got it at NT LAN-man version 2, refuse LAN-man and NT LAN-man. We're basically saying you're in a Windows 2000 only environment. These are the settings that we'd like you to use. Shut down immediately if unable to log security audits. We're doing a lot of logging. We do have this disabled, but if your security policy requires that security auditing is on at all times, you need to install this and enable this. Right now it's disabled, so you won't lock your system out when your audits do fill up. We've added a couple of keys to the network that we didn't find in other guides. This particular key, the SynAttackProtect, we're figuring that a lot of these workstations aren't going to be directly attached to the internet, as much as we hate that. So a lot of these machines will be in people's houses attached to cable modems and on the internet. This basically protects the local machine from SynAttacks. So somebody does a SynAttack on the system, it readjusts the transmission delay, and the connections quickly time out so it doesn't overflow your connection buffer. The half open, this is just another setting to say that if I get 100 send receives, then I'm being attacked. And this is one of the thresholds for letting you know whether you're getting send attacked or not. Half open retried works in conjunction with the half open to make sure to set your threshold for knowledge whether a send attack is happening or not. The PMTUDiscovery. This basically helps your network. It goes out and discovers what the largest MTU, what the largest packet sizes allow between your workstation and the remote workstation that you're talking to. This will set your packet size to that maximum level for all communications between those two areas, so you don't have to worry about fragmentation along your network. The ICMP redirects. This parameter controls whether Windows 2000 will alter its route table in response to ICMP redirects. We decided that we didn't want the workstations to alter their routing tables through any external influence. And so we basically turned this off. So it will not change the routing tables no matter what the router sends to it and tells it to change. AeDebug Auto. This is basically turning off Dr. Watson. Dr. Watson's the debugging program. I'm sure whenever you've seen a crash, you've seen it dumping to your file system. Well, within this dump file can be potentially sensitive information about passwords, your system, what's currently running, all kinds of information that you don't want other people to have access to. We've decided that most workstation users don't require that dump file, and it's not necessary, it's not used. Most users just go in and delete the dump file and not send it to Microsoft, so we've cut it off. Crash dump. If Doc Watson does get enabled, this just says don't do the crash dump. Don't dump this file to my hard drive at all. Dr. Watson comes on, does whatever it needs to log, but it doesn't dump the file to the hard drive. Are there any questions or future input or things that you guys would like to see later on within our, by NIST? Yes?
Well, it appears to be Eudora client and all that used, but what I do run into is a lot of users that use Lotus Notes client.
Lotus Notes? Okay. Yes, we can definitely put that in the document. That's a good suggestion. Has anybody downloaded the document and taken a look at it yet? No. Okay, what we're looking at for future areas is possibly Windows XP Professional. A lot of users are starting to use Windows XP now. That'll be a lot of new research because a lot of research hasn't been done on XP at this time. Microsoft.NET, those solutions are coming down the pike. Please send any suggestions to itsec@nist.gov if you have any other input. Do you guys have any questions on the document itself? Any questions about what we've gone through? All right. What we would like is for everybody in this room or to tell other people within your environment or to tell other people within your sector to download the document, to look it over, and to give us some feedback and input on what we should do to make the document better, what we should do to make this document usable for your more advanced users and for your entry-level administrators. Actually, even what we can do to make it more usable for advanced administrators. We want to make sure that the suggestions that we're making are viable, are true. If somebody knows that something that we're doing is not correct, please let us know. Please send the information out to us. Are there any further questions? Okay, thank you.